We are live.
All right.
So, Shane, do we have any viewer mail this week?
We did, but I'm not going to read it. It's from Lindsey Buckingham, and I know you've heard the story many times, but if you will indulge me. So
Sure.
People at home might not know I wrote Little Lies by Fleetwood Mac, and it became a big hit for them in '87, kind of a late career hit. And I was hanging out with Stevie a lot at the time, and Lindsay, who called him CC, and she was like, "Can we have this song?" I was like, "Sure, just credit me, make sure I'm not a janitor in 40 years." And they said there's no chance of that happening. And now he's writing me like everything's fine, telling me, "Oh, I love the podcast, it's great." No apology, and I don't want money. I just want an apology.
The absolute nerve.
Yeah. So I mean, if you ask him and he says no, we wrote it, he's telling a big lie. Anyway.
I'm sorry.
So I mean, on with the show, I guess.
On with the show.
Arcade.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Arcade Comics Podcast. I'm Craig Ray.
And I am Shane Pace.
Shane, we are doing our very special Valentine's Day.
Yes, it is a Valentine's Day episode. Comics are for lovers.
Comics are for lovers.
So
first, as per usual, we are going to discuss what we've been reading. And I actually got some books under my belt this week.
Yeah. Well, because this was probably the biggest week yet as far as amount of major releases.
Sure. Yeah. As far as actual sheer number. I guess so that we could work our way towards modern. From last week, we previously talked about it, but I wasn't a good partner in crime there. I read Duke #2.
Yeah.
It continues to.
Do I lie?
You don't.
Yeah.
It's a ton of fun. I mean, I don't think we need to sell anybody on Energon. However, the thing that shocked me the most, I mean, I knew I was going to dig Transformers. It came out, strong. And then we kind of waited for Duke and Cobra Commander. And I've been pleasantly surprised with Duke. It has been as much fun as a book can be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you can tell that it's, it started with this character. They're kind of getting the band together. I think what's happening is, so I also looked into it, and Duke and Cobra Commander are 5 issues. I think what they're leading towards is it's going to merge, like the conflict's going to be there, and it's going to turn into a G.I. Joe book.
Oh yeah, because they are slowly collecting
Sure.
old cast members too, so that's awesome. And then inevitably once Void Rivals and Transformers converge, and then we've seen the Decepticons. We see at the end of the last was it the last Void Rivals? We see the husk of a certain Decepticon, or it could be, maybe I dreamed it.
It was Cobra Commander.
Oh my, that's right. Yeah. So something big, and again, I like the idea that there's a plan behind this. And Josh Williamson seems inspired. I think that his last few DC events seemed less so. But right now, between his Superman, his Batman and Robin, and this right here, he seems like he's really found a creative groove again. So yeah. I'm enjoying it.
Well, and it's like, I can only imagine how difficult it is. Like, I remember listening to like an interview with him like a little while ago, maybe over a year or so, and he's a planner and he's very meticulous, and it sounds like over at DC he had a lot of the coursework, like he was kind of doing some architecting over there and doing some work, and that was fresh off the release of Rogues is what that was going on. I mean, as far as the
superlative Black Label series.
Sure. No, I loved that book. I mean, and that was one of those things where he had said at the time Rogues was being released, but he had written that like 3 years earlier. So it was like an Avengers Twilight situation where it has been in the can, just kind of waiting for the right time. And I guess that's a good segue. If we're talking about last week's stuff, I also did read Avengers Twilight #2. Caught up on that, and it sure as hell didn't get worse. That's an amazing book.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to where that's going to go, because he's onto something. He and Chip's always inspired. But that could take us, we'll talk 3 when 3 comes out, but that does take us to this week's Batman 142, which begins the Joker year 1. And Craig, you read this. What did you think?
I love Chip Zdarsky. I love what he's done with Batman. I feel like it's not my favorite, but I think it's just like, I mean, I think he's doing some groundwork and he's setting himself up for something. Batman's not in this book, which is fine. I'm fine with the Batman book that doesn't have Batman in it. But it was just okay because the first one, at least, it looks like it's approaching the three Jokers.
Yeah.
It's the Red Hood version, and it's kind of the the failed comedian type of backstory thing, and that's not Joker to me. So it was just okay.
Well, I think a backstory of any kind is not really Joker for me. I thought the Red Hood idea was always pushing it, but it's been done so well
Sure.
that I've come to accept it. But I agree with you. I do like that it firmly plants itself in the timeline during Scott Snyder's 0 year.
Yes.
It's right after Riddler he'd been confounded by Batman. Another reason to revisit Snyder's run, but at least there's that, and it adds to the lore that way. And it may not have Batman, but you do get Henry Ducard, so
That's true.
yeah, it's like I told you when I read it, like I had fun, like it moved really well, it was well paced, and like I had fun with it, but I just don't know if the Joker needs a backstory. But we'll see. It's early days yet. They could be doing the old bait and switch.
We'll find out this week, actually, because this year one arc is 3 issues and it's weekly. So 142 was last week. I'm sorry, it is this current week. 143 is next week. The week after that will be 144, and then it goes back to monthly again. So
Fantastic. And then another DC great arc that wrapped up is the Birds of Prey, the first arc.
Absolutely.
And they one of the best books coming out from DC, and they landed it. They stuck the landing. That's for sure.
Very much so. It went back to
I like that it was kind of a Pyrrhic victory. Like we won, but it cost a lot, and it doesn't feel like a win. But as Barbara explains, you got to take the wins where you get them.
yeah, and it does an excellent job as far as leaving like a dangling thread as far as where the next arc's going to pick up. And for those of you that didn't necessarily enjoy the idea of the Birds of Prey book because it wasn't the right team for you, the end of this book is a reset of the team.
Yep, they're gonna get a new team. But if you don't like Barda on this, then I'm sorry. That's just so wrong. Barda was so great.
You don't have to be a bird to be on the team for me. As far as I understand there's the
No, it's nice, but
mentality that might be there, but I think
Oracle was on it, and I don't know any bird species named Oracle. And I just learned this, but bats are mammals.
really
Mammals. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, the Birds of Prey. It's just the idea that there's these superheroines who are the predators on crime.
Right.
Essentially. But having said that, I would love to see Lady Blackhawk back on the team so much. But Barda was on the team previously. The only one that Zealot being on there was that was a left field that came right out of pocket, but it worked beautifully. Like it made Zealot interesting for the first time, and I really liked it. This book was great. The art worked for me the entire time, and the writing was just
superlative. It was great.
Yeah, she's coming up again. Kelly Thompson on a creative role. Oh, and speaking of that, then the Cull.
Yep.
That first arc ended this week, and not enough people are reading the Cull. It is a compelling story, but for no other reason, it's some of the best most dynamic art in comics right now. It's so wild. It's lifelike, but not. I don't know. There's a quality you can't really explain.
You can tell that it's real. The best way I can describe it is, you can tell somebody actually drew it. But do you know how the intro to the Secret Invasion show, how it was all brush strokey and it was created with AI and it has that look to it. Yeah. This is artwork that has that same brush strokey feel to it, but you could tell it's real artwork. I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of photorealistic, but it has a layer over it that makes it feel surreal. I don't know. I agree.
But it was a really good book. I read a couple more. Shazam 8 continues to be one of the most fun books on shows. New Before Zod 2 was pretty good. And Superman 78.
Steel Curtain.
Yeah, now that was number 4, and they're full on Gene Hackman, and I love seeing how Metallo could have looked in Richard Donner's version instead of the number 2 that we got.
Sure.
But it's a lot of fun, and it going back to that universe. But that kind of wraps up my DC books for the week. But that's good because Marvel is coming out of the corner swinging.
Yeah.
They got sick of you and me not talking about them.
Yeah.
Because folks, I mean, we have listeners worldwide. It's ridiculous. You see the mail we get. You think Lindsey Buckingham was the only American pop star that sent letters this week?
Absolutely not.
No, but he's the only one I have the bone to pick with. But so this week we had Fantastic Four 17, which I'm telling you again, you can pick up any of these issues. They're all self-contained and they're all works of genius. They are. I mean, like Ryan North is doing insanely good work with that book right now.
Yep.
And Sensational She-Hulk. Number 5, again, it continues to be the most pleasant book on shelves.
Sure.
The most just hanging out with your friends. And yeah, although next week or next month, she's going to space.
Yes.
But no, the big one of the week, building on all this ultimate universe that's being constructed. And this week saw the arrival of Ultimate Black Panther #1.
Yeah.
And with the lead from that Ultimate Spider-Man, and you go, folks, you've seen the internet, you know this book's going wild. There's a lot of pressure on this to be good, and I don't know if I know that he who is it, Brian Hill, Brian Wood,
Brian Hill, yeah.
Brian Hill knew that, like, I'm sure I'm going to make the best book I can, but he had to have been sweating in those few weeks after Spider-Man blew up that much,
Sure.
and so all that heat was on Black Panther. Luckily, the book it delivers.
It's good. Absolutely.
It was really good.
It's nothing. It's the same thing I would say as Ultimate Spider-Man, and that is there is nothing absolutely earth-shattering as far as like, oh, this is crazy. Or like, here's his first appearance, or this thing's really weird.
Dad's there, Shuri's there.
There's just
his wife is. That was an interesting.
Yes,
twist.
There's subtle differences as far as like who's playing what role, and but the attitudes and like the characters are there and they're the same, but it's cool. Like if you take the personality and you put them in a different role in the story, and I think that is one of the pleasant things that I liked about Ultimate Spider-Man, and it continues to be the case with Ultimate Black Panther.
Yeah. I'll say my one complaint is the ridiculous mouth space for his on his
costume,
and like come on. I hope there's just a panel where he catches himself in the mirror in the second one. He's like, "Hey, Sherry, fix this shit." Like what?
Right? Like
what are we
what
doing?
is this?
I can breathe with it's fine. And also the idea of working in the Fist of Khonshu. What's that about? They're in Wakanda. What? The plot doth thicken. And I do think that because Ultimate's taking off so just as much as big as it is, you're going to see a lot more Ultimate titles that you probably wouldn't have seen otherwise. So
agreed.
It's probably going to be an Ultimate Moon Knight.
The 3 announced, I think, were dipping the toe, and they've got their answer.
Yeah,
so.
and they are putting their best foot forward, like with heavyweights, because as you all know, Ultimate X-Men #1 is coming out, written and drawn by Peach Momoko.
Yep, and that's March. So this is where they're going to do a plug. Get those pulls on your list now to get sufficient time, because the Ultimate books aren't lasting long. There's not going to be that chance to wander into the store the week of, and if you didn't
Black
get
Panther
one,
one's already a $25 book.
yes, and that's again,
Ultimate Spider-Man one. You could sell your child and sell O for that book. That thing is insane right now on the secondary.
It's
market.
insane. Second print, just for everybody out there, second print is on the shelves next week. And then immediately following that, on the 22nd, is when 2 comes out. So you have a chance to read 1 on the second print next week. The following week is number 2.
Do it
so
now.
you're all caught up.
Aren't you sick of going to the water cooler? Every one of your coworkers talking about Ultimate Spider-Man 1. You aren't, because you missed out. Debbie from accounting knows everything.
And you don't want to be that guy
everything,
anymore.
and you're just faking it. You're just like, Ben's alive. I know. Don't be a poser anymore, man.
Get out there and read it.
Yeah, I like the idea that Peach Momoko. I'm assuming that like she got free from the cell that Marvel keeps her in to
covers.
Yeah. And she made a dash for it, and then they caught her, and to placate her, they're like, you can do the X-Men book, and she's like, fine. So that's good. It's only going to last so long though. I mean, she's wily.
Absolutely,
she's wily. So yeah, we got to find out though. There's
very, very interesting. I mean, how this is taken off,
and it's. Well, the nostalgia factor, I think, is a lot of it, but also being a jumping on point for anybody at this point, because we've seen a lot of young kids coming in here.
Yeah, and people that were, I mean, a bunch of people that weren't in books at all, and they're like, "What's this Ultimate Spider-Man I'm hearing about?" Which is like, we've been a store for a little while now, but I haven't seen this before, and it's been a complete delight to have brand new people be walking in and being like, What's this Happy Spider-Man I'm hearing about?
Yeah.
And you're like, let me point you in the direction.
And they're like, "Are Spider-Man books always this good?" And we're like, we looked at them dead in the eye, straight face, and say yes.
Absolutely.
Every Spider-Man book,
Every time.
yeah. But what a great jumping on point, because it does. It introduces the characters that you know and love, and they are true blue to those characters, and it's going to build this whole new Marvel universe, and I think it's great. Again, Chip Zdarsky gave an interview this week where he explains that one, that he is the one that it was originally
they approached
Ultimate Spider-Man one,
Spider-Man.
and he read or heard that Hickman's whole plan that he has for the Ultimate Universe going forward, and he's like, no, I mean, this has to be Jonathan Hickman's thing. And then Hickman called later and thanked him because he said
he's
having
having an
much
absolute
fun.
blast doing it. Yeah.
I think they just went to Chip because Chip's the Spider-Man guy. He's the one of all the writers in the last like 5 or 6 years. He's the one that people hate the least
Of writing Spider-Man.
of writing Spider-Man. Yeah.
Well, and won an Eisner for it.
That's for
mean,
that
so
terrific annual. That's you read that and have some dry eyes by the end of it. But no, I'm excited. I'm excited to be excited about Marvel books again.
Which I also there's just two more that I want to mention for the Marvels at least. Wolverine Madripoor Nights came out this week, which is
Did you get a chance to read that? I did not.
I did.
Okay.
I read it. It's gritty, so it takes place immediately.
Is there sex trafficking? Because Madripoor is just that, and heroin, I think, are like what
Absolutely
thrives in Madripoor. Place is gross.
It takes place. So for those of you that remember, back in Uncanny X-Men 268, there was that iconic Jim Lee cover, first of all, with Black Widow, Captain America, and Wolverine. They are there, and they kind of, that's the one where Wolverine and Cap kind of, through conversation, determined they ran into each other during World War II.
In the war, yeah. That's a great issue, too.
Yeah.
Great story.
And then Black Widow in there. So basically, this book is a direct, sequel to the events that happened in that issue.
Is it set in that time, or is it?
It's set in that time. So the opening page is immediately following the events of Uncanny X-Men 268, which I will say, here's what's weird for me. Uncanny X-Men 268 has a facsimile coming out very soon, like a week or two. Like, why did this book release before we would release that facsimile as a point of reference? That's the only bone I have to pick with it.
That's. I guess that staggered release dates. It's got to be hard. I'm not
Sure.
in the game. Isn't it written by some new nobody that
New up-and-comer
Yeah.
Chris Claremont?
Chris Claremont? So I mean, it's all or nothing. I'm hoping for another one more win for Chris Claremont at least.
Yeah, I'm interested. It's fun. I was around the first time. It was cool revisiting it. So I would suggest, if you're only considering reading this because you don't know about the 268, I brought up the facsimile to let you know. You can come get that facsimile, and then it leads right into this. And it doesn't really matter which order you read it in. It'll give you some context, but there's a little splash page at the beginning that kind of says this and this and this. This is how we know each other, and moving on. But 268 is coming out as well. It's a fantastic Jim Lee cover by the facsimile anyway.
That's awesome.
The other one is Dead X-Men #1, which is an interesting book.
What is the premise? Are they the X-Men that we know that have died, or is it something different?
No, it is. This is
I guess they can't die now.
Dazzler and
Say more.
it is Prodigy, Frenzy, Jubilee, Dazzler, and Cannonball. They are basically looking for. It takes place. It's part. This is all part of the whole wrapping up Krakoa thing. But they have to find a Moira that's like the human
Because she had her lives, and in each life she learned something.
each life
new.
she learned something new. So basically, trying to
something.
find base Moira is what they're doing and going through this whole thing. And it's I'm at a disadvantage because I am one of those where I started with House of X, Powers of X, did a little bit, and then I've trailed off. Like I haven't been able to keep up with X-Men.
Everything through Inferno, and I mean everything, spinoff and all of it. And then I dropped off when Immortal X-Men started. I've only read the first 8 or 9 of those, and they're very good. But boy, you jump off, you stop for water one time, 1 week from X-Men, you miss 36 books.
Yes,
It's like all right, I'll just wait for the Omni.
And that's what I'm doing was waiting.
Yeah, and because we're approaching Fall of X, or did X already fall?
We're approaching. We're at issue #2.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we'll get a reboot. I mean, that's good.
Another exciting jumping on point for Marvel this year. Yeah.
I can't wait for them to reboot it with one book that becomes 13 books in week 2.
It's gonna be fun, at least having that starting point. But Dead X-Men, actually, I read it as its own thing, only knowing somewhat what was going on, and it's a lot of fun.
It worked.
Part of it was because Dazzler and Cannonball were in it. So
Dazzler, that's
got my attention.
Two of the best, two of the absolute best. God, I love Dazzler.
I think for
Do you know when Dazzler premiered her first appearance? What year?
19 what? So it was X-Men 130, which would have been 82.
80. I thought it was 82 too. But it was 1980. I was looking at my first appearance that I have of her the other day.
Dazzler's older than I am.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
She looks amazing.
She does.
Looks
I
amazing.
look like shit.
Those no, you look great.
That's for me, at least for me. That wraps up Marvel. Are we ready to move on to Independence?
That wraps up to Marvel. Although this week though, I did read a Marvel omnibus that's forthcoming. I think it comes out in the first week of April or March, last week of March, something like that. But it's Jason Aaron's Ghost Rider. This is the 2006 run that I think Benjamin Percy might have started, or I could be way off on that. But yeah, he picks up. It's not a huge omni. It's like 15 issues, and then a 6-issue mini that he did, and it is an absolute blast. I was telling Craig it was some of the most fun I've had. It's some early Jason Aaron work at Marvel, and he knocked it out of the park. It's everything you want from a Ghost Rider book.
You sent me that panel that showed the different heroes and the dialogue.
Yeah,
I was like,
it's just so rad. It's I don't know. It's just like high-fiving some friends as a comic. Also, there's another one coming out, a DC book. I read the New Gods Volume 2. This is kind of closing the chapter begun by Jack Kirby in 1970 when he introduced the New Gods. And this is written by primarily Jerry Conway, and there's just a litany of great artists, Carmen Infantino not least among these, and it's very, very good. I enjoy it very much, and it's a sense of an ending. It's a sense of closure. But you do wonder what Jack would have done, and Jack was alive, they were all his buddies, so I'm sure he probably had some input. But it really was good, and it really was it primed the pump, and it put me in mind of Big Barda, who I'm going to be talking about later. But that's that. I guess we can keep with the You know what? While I'm on this, I'm just going to go one more thing. So last night I read this event from 2016 or 2017 called Endless Winter. It was a Justice League story, and it was co-written by Ron Mars, who, as everybody knows, co-created Kyle Rayner. And Kyle Rayner, wasn't there a Green Lantern book this week, or was it last week?
It was.
No, you know what I'm thinking of?
It was this week.
And I'm thinking of this week where Kyle Rayner's on the cover.
That's next week.
Yeah, that great Doc Shaner cover.
Yep.
So yeah, Kyle Rayner's never far from my mind at any given time. But yeah, if you want, you guys should read Endless Winter, and if not, if you don't want to get, it's available on a hardcover. Andy Lanning co-wrote it with Ron Mars, but it's all included. The entire event is included in the Justice League Dark omnibus that's also coming out in April.
Yep.
And that's just a great run.
I'm pumped about that.
Yeah, and this is where Wonder Woman forms the Justice League Dark. It's great, and that's how she knows Detective Chimp and all these great things. But anytime you get Justice League Dark, one of the best ideas to come out of the New 52, it's always a welcome idea. So yeah. Anyway, just some things. So if anybody wants to do a little extra reading in the next few months, comics are wide and varied. But I guess we could go on to the other big Dynamite release. What do you think? Thundercats number 1.
Yep.
I mean, and talk about nostalgia, but again, they're not doing it just for its sake. Because this was written. I mean, it was written by Declan Shalvey, who everybody knows he wrote Time Before Time, that made it in my top 10 list of 2023. So I was ready for this. And Dynamite, they paid for a real writer again, and it paid off.
And art.
Oh, it looked great. I still have a crush on Chitara, it turns out.
Yep.
Yeah, glad to know.
1 billion covers.
You never forget your first.
All of them.
And gosh.
They're fantastic.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons Thundercats is so fondly remembered, or why it stuck in the crowd, is because it was so visually striking. All the designs were so good, and they didn't change anything.
No.
You don't have to.
I don't know if they took a page out of Transformers book or if it's complete coincidence, but it's written in the exact same way where it's like ready and go.
Yeah, here, do all the Thundercats things.
Yeah,
I don't want 100 years of backstory about
You don't have to wonder.
how Tigger got his name.
They're not going to make you wait till issue 4 to hear him say Thundercats ho. There's
Right.
no, just like you didn't have to wait for Optimus to say roll out.
This is not a Netflix series.
Right.
All right.
It is all in. If you're, obviously in the shop at least, I saw a specific, demographic picking this up.
Sure.
The nostalgia machine was running hard.
right.
But that aside, knowing nothing about it, you're exactly right. The character design is striking. It's a good introduction. It's a fun book. Like I would suggest it to anybody.
Yeah,
Not if you're just some
even if-
40-some-year-old
even if-
dude.
Even
Yeah.
if you're not a Thundercat, if you've never seen the show or read it, you can pick this up and it's like, oh, what a fun adventure we're going on.
Absolutely.
I really like that. Another great indie from IDW,
Beneath the Trees.
the breakout
Nobody
hit,
sees.
the breakout hit of last year.
It is. I don't even know how to describe it. Like I am so pleasantly surprised. I've said it before. I have the exact same. It's the Stray Dogs vibes that I had from before, and it's not because the books are similar. It's because like I have personally have the same feelings about like, oh, it's Beneath the Trees Day.
Yeah.
And I get excited about reading the book to find out where it goes next. And this one does not disappoint.
Boy, in this time, in this one actually, I mean, not that the last one did, but this one, instead of just going for wanton murder, the plot thickens.
Yes.
Very much so, and advances in a very interesting way. And not only, but like clues are followed up,
Well, there's a little bit of danger there. Like in this one, the main character kind of gets into a spot. And you're like, oh shit! Like how does how do we have so many more issues left? Like this seems like it would be the end.
It's great. I think that serial killers probably make great detectives.
For sure.
And this one proves that very much so. I also like the art is still deceptive to me. It still gets me.
The facial expressions are still what trips me out.
Yeah. But I mean, like that whole Moats shows so much emotion.
Yeah.
So many different things in his cartooning, Patrick Horvath. But like just by the cover, it's like if you picked up Hop on Pop, but Pop ends up like vivisected by the end of the book. I love the idea.
And on this one, just to let people know, there's still, I understand it's been difficult to find maybe, but they're doing the work. There is a third print of number 1 coming out. There's currently the same week 3 came out, but so did the second print of number 2. So if you do the work, even if you buy 2 this week, wait for a couple of weeks for a third print of 1 to come out, buy 3 today.
Because Debbie's read that too.
You're up to date.
So come in and get caught up on what the pulse of the nation right now. This is what
trees.
This is what everybody's talking about. It is a great book. And IDW, they needed a win and they got one between this and the TMNT, which is really picking up steam.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're approaching that 150 milestone where Jason Aaron is going to take over. So again, watch the pulls on that too.
Absolutely.
Because when that rolls over and the Jason Aaron jumps on it, it's gonna be a monster.
It's gonna be wild.
Yeah, and then you're gonna be coming in and be like, "Hey, Debbie from accounting told me that this came out, and I feel bad because I don't know anything about it." And then we're like, "We're out, man! It's Jason Aaron. We told you."
Joel Jones on the art.
Joel Jones doing interiors.
There we go.
Gosh, do you know what tomorrow is, Craig?
Tomorrow is February 10th.
Tomorrow's February 10th. That is Lunar New Year.
Lunar New Year.
So another plug for my favorite book of the year so far, Lunar New Year. Love Story by Gene Luen Yang.
We've got one more independent book to talk about before we lead into our main topic, though.
All right. Just it's Valentine's is coming up, and if you want to give that to someone you love or beat someone you love to death with it, it's good for both.
It is. So
what's the last one? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. What's the last one?
Oh boy. No. Wait. There's a few more.
Go ahead and do that first.
The one hand that came out from Image Books, Image Comics. It's Ram V's new book, and it's going to be having a companion series, the Six Fingers.
Yep.
And it's a detective story set in the future, but I didn't know it was the future until like they'd say it 20 pages in, like because it looks and feels just like now. Because you go to any modern American city today and you're like, wow, the future. But it was a terrific book, and I can't wait to see what he's building. Because Ram V, between that and Rare Flavors and Detective, just again firing on all cylinders right now. So it was really exciting to see that. Kaya came out today. Came out this week, number 14 or 15, something like that. That'll take 2 trays to get caught up on, but you guys will be doing yourselves a favor to do it. And then Pine and Merrimack from Boom, the Kyle Starks series, number 2, which seems like that came out really quick after 1. But what a fun series! Kyle Starks knows how to write, and this is it's not his usual humor, but he knows how to do. He can write. He can write in all genres. And this is another detective story. I read this in the One Hand back to back, and it really worked.
Complimentary.
Yeah, it did. It felt good. But no, I had to take. So I read a comic. Craig and I both read a comic earlier today. We were saving it. I read it. Came down on the floor of the shop. Craig asked me if something was wrong, and I was just like, "No, I just read this comic. I am devoid. I don't want to talk. I want to sit here with myself."
Yeah.
I had to. It took 2 hours of quiet time in a Taco Bowl before I could do anything. And then Craig read it shortly after,
And I cussed and cried in front of a child.
Yes, I read it upstairs at the shop and cried.
Yeah.
And then Craig read it downstairs in front of people and cried.
It was a poor decision.
Yeah.
I'm used to reading alone.
But
so
what book is this, Craig?
we of course talking about Traveling to Mars,
The
number
penultimate
10,
issue
penultimate issue.
of Traveling to Mars by Mark Russell. And if nothing else, I hope that this podcast we established that we are Mark Russell fans and fanatics, and that he is, at least for me, the greatest working comics writer.
I don't know how to describe the issue. First of all, yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, Mark. And I got in touch with him, and I don't have exact dates yet, but we will be having a follow-up. Like we said last time when we talked to him, we'll be talking with him sometime around the end of Traveling to Mars and before
Craig will be talking to him.
Space Age.
I will be nervously fumbling through
Space
an
Age.
interview. Reading verbatim questions I have written out so that I don't mess it up. Yes, because he's got the Batman: The Dark Knight coming out.
Which they've released covers and stuff like that. I'm super pumped about that book. All Reds are back. He's back. I mean,
a sequel
Frank
series.
Quitely doing a B cover.
Yes, it's a sequel series or companion series, of course, with his Superman Space Age, which will also change your life. But this issue, Traveling to Mars, number 10. For those who've been following Roy's travails, he's on it. He landed on Mars. And I don't know how much to spoil.
I don't want to spoil anything.
No.
I feel like we've done it.
If you've again like if you've ever loved and lost, or if you loved and kept, you're gonna want to read this.
You have to have. I'll say it again. I feel like in order to fully appreciate this book, you have to have some mileage in. Like you have to have done something, lost something, thought about something. Something somewhat significant. Like, I mean, it is an absolute joy and reward. This is going to be, I cannot wait to get this on trade paperback form, because I will 100% be cashing in all my brownie points with everybody I know to get them to read this goddamn book.
Yes.
It is one of my favorite things I've ever read.
Mark Russell described it as the best thing that he ever wrote, in his opinion, and it's hard to argue with that.
Yes. And I know we joke a lot here and we, pretend like things are real when they're not and whatever else. I did cry and cuss in front of a child because I didn't know they were there reading this. Like, it was involuntary.
Anyone who knows me knows that I definitely cried.
Right.
I cried during X-Men.
Like, is Jean really dead?
It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm a softie, but this book will get you. It'll hit you in all the feels. So I mean, it's about life. Again, nobody is more human or better at being a human than Mark.
Yeah, it's the human condition in book form. Next month will be the last issue, and then shortly after that, we're looking at trade paperback. And I highly, highly suggest get that trade paperback, get the issues. It is 100% worth your time.
I don't think so. This is. I know this kind of sounds bad coming from us because Craig and I, when we aren't at the shop, we're out there. We're spreading the gospel of Mark. We got our white dress shirts and our black ties, and we're pounding the pavement. We're knocking on doors. It's a lot. There's a lot of slam doors, but a couple people will invite you in and they'll listen, and we'll leave the literature, and we're doing our part to tell the tales of this great man.
Yeah. Read the book.
Read the book. You know what I realized last night?
What's that?
Last night, having these musings. All of my nieces, Skylar, Ryan, let me think, Riley, Eowyn, and Avery, all have Y's in their names. I don't know. Late night you can't get to sleep, and it's like, wait. So then you have to write it out, and like, do they all have an E? No, one throws a thing off. This is how I spend my nights. But I love them all, and not just sometimes. Why? Because they're awesome.
Because they're awesome.
That's where I'm giving my love for this Valentine's Day, because your boy is riding stag this year. I was like, nope, sorry ladies, I have plans.
reading to do.
I got reading to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, these omnis aren't going to read themselves.
So we decided, we were chatting about it, and we were trying to be, aware of, like, we try to be aware of, like, whose birthdays or if there's holidays and things like that coming out when we're talking about different show ideas. And we're like, you know what? This is a Valentine's Day episode. Let's talk about our favorite couples or
in
like relationships in
yeah,
comics.
Yeah, and we were going to do it really seriously, but I think we're going to keep it loose.
Yeah, I mean, not going to do research. I think we're just going to say, hey, you know what couple's cool?
You don't want to overthink love. That's how I lose all my girlfriends.
So, in light of that, I guess, is there anybody, Shane, would you like to go first? Like, I'm opening the floor to say which couple you want to talk about first.
I mean, we should probably start with Bruce and Selena.
Okay.
I
know everybody's shocked about that. Oh,
yeah, but
Greg and Shane are going to talk about Batman.
The people that but we can't talk about the ones that always work out, because my favorite is a very solid relationship that still works.
Sure.
But Bruce and Selena, two alike. But I don't know. When they're together, they're great. But they're also so volatile, and and they have different missions. And again, how can anyone like truly how can Bruce truly ever be with someone? His psychoses are so myriad and so deep. It's like, I don't know if he wants to inflict himself on anyone ever, ultimately.
So how did you feel about the whole issue 50 thing, during Rebirth and Tom King's run and stuff? Like, how did you approach that? Because I remember hearing about it. I remember, like, shops were ordering like wedding cake, and it was like a whole big thing. Like, do you remember?
I do. And I remember the backlash when it was kind of a bait and switch. They didn't actually get married because she didn't show up.
Right.
I thought her reasoning then was a bit specious, especially for Tom King. I thought he would come up with something a little bit better. But also, I get it too. But I was not mad at all. Like, of course they're not going to get married. I don't know how that would work. I don't know what that would even look like. Like, Batman he can't allow himself to be happy, so it wouldn't have worked. Eventually he would have, they would have ended up hating each other. And she gets that. And, she, at that moment, she was less vulnerable than he was, or more willing to, like, make the hard choice, because she wanted to get married. They want to marry each other, but they know they ultimately
still
can't.
do.
Yeah.
It's when they interact. I think to answer my own question, I was pissed off.
That they didn't get married?
They didn't get married. Because this was like almost exactly a year after that date night issue that I've talked about many times.
What a beautiful episode.
Which is one of my favorite issues of all time. And part of that is the light and fluffy and free nature of it. It is a comic book about Bruce, Selena, Lois, and Clark going out to like your standard like local fair and throwing baseballs at milk containers and getting in batting cages and stuff like that. And like when you see them in that couple, like, when you see them there and they're dynamic, you're like, yeah, this would work.
But that was the outlier. Like, Bruce having a good time with friends is the outlier. And when you try to like you try to change like what an obsessive compulsive like does daily, like this your routine, they will resent you. They will take it out on you. You're disrupting their flow. Like, if Batman, like, even though they keep the same hours, like they're both night owls, and they're sleeping, but like inevitably, like, before you go out tonight, Bruce, would you like to go out to dinner? He's like, no, I have to read these case files. Like, no, and eventually the resentment would build up, and it wouldn't work ultimately. It's like no, like this is what I have to do. So.
I get that, because you see the date night, which is a single night, and maybe he can let go of that obsession to say, okay, I'm not on the streets right now. But you also know that in his head he thought about it at least once or twice.
And he's probably checking in on the low with Barbara and the team, make sure they're all on patrol.
Right.
Turn on the police scanner that inevitably like put in his ear. But we don't have to dwell on Batman and Catwoman too much. But or and Bruce and any of his other he's had a lot of girlfriends throughout the like serious relationships.
Yeah.
Whether it be Sylvia St. Cloud or Vicky Vale or Talia.
Yep.
Talia, who's probably is made. They'd be perfect for each other, but it would result in the end of the world. Ultimately, even like if Ray's Algo like approves of you marrying his daughter, like whoa, that's
Oh shit! What did I do wrong?
the supervillain thinks this would be a good idea.
Yeah.
But no, that's Bruce and Selena, and they're both out there. They both want to be together, but they can't. And there's something poetic about that. And hopefully, at least I hope this Valentine's Day they meet on a rooftop and at least have one kiss.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I wish them the best of luck.
wish him the best, and I know Alfred does too.
Yep. Wherever he's at.
But who do you think? Who would you want to start off with?
So one that sticks out to me, and it's not necessarily because it's like my favorite, but I was just like, I'd swing in and out of comics just based upon like, there were milestones where like when I was just getting into college, I was kind of out just because I didn't have the money. I was at school and then, different things. So, I popped in, I was in an on period when, Dinah and Oliver were getting married.
Oh,
right.
Man.
And I know you all have a lot to say about it, and I don't want to steal anything.
No,
about
not at all. This is one of my favorite couples, though.
Absolutely. So I love their dynamic because it is extremely playful, and I think the way it's written, at least the books that I've read, like I think Winnick was doing a lot of work.
Judd Winnick did a great run.
Did a great job with that.
Late 90s.
Like Amanda Connor's on art. Winnick was doing some writing. At least on the wedding issues specifically, because they led up to it and it was a big deal.
Yeah, and oh crap, I'm blanking on who, because right before that there was another long and storied run, and then coming off from the Mike Grell stuff, which Mike Grell brought him back. All those great that was one of the best relaunches. I think it's my favorite, even edging out for me. It edges out year one as far as the post crisis, the post 86 crisis, or 85 crisis rather. Relaunch of the DC characters, like John Byrne, of course, relaunched Superman with Man of Steel. Yep. And Frank Miller did Batman with Batman Year One. George Perez did Wonder Woman. All some of the best comics ever made. But I love Mike Grell's. He brought back Green Arrow with Longbow Hunters, and at first it was it wasn't Dinah. She came later in that run. They'd been together. But I like that. Like Ollie is he comes off as kind of a hot. He is a hothead, but when he's with Dinah, he becomes more human, I guess. He a little bit more grown up.
Yeah.
Because he's not her first husband. She has a child and a husband before, and he died. And and now she owns a flower shop and she fights crime, and she's incredible. She's one of the best leaders in the DC universe. And
read Birds of Prey if you need an example. Right.
Any run of it from Gail Simone to Chuck Dixon to now, he's man enough to just like meet her where she's at, and like I don't think, because he was a rich kid, he was a playboy before he got crashed on that island and became who he is. So he's used to like he's used to women fawning over him, and he's used to like vapid people, meaningless relationships. Like I could have never a young Ollie could have never imagined himself with Dinah, or at least been man enough to like be who she needs him to be, and he is.
He's a type where you could tell that he was getting that attention in, like being in scenarios where there's like all kinds of glad handing and things like that, where there's a certain depth where I think along with that you don't get close enough and you don't get secure enough with yourself. So I think I understand what you're saying as far he's the type where like he would typically be fearful of a strong woman like that.
He'd be intimidated.
Because he's used to the attention and being, whatever.
But also, like, earning the affection of a woman like that, man,
right, exactly.
That's something else. And then when they're in the field, they're very, very formidable, but they are so conscious of each other.
Yes.
And each other's safety. And sometimes that's a bad thing. I think the Justice League always worries about Oliver in the field. I'm like, this is not Hawkeye, guys. He can take care of himself. No, I love Hawkeye, but no. I love Oliver Queen.
But he is treated differently. I agree. I mean,
Yeah, no,
Green Arrow isn't treated with the kid gloves that.
No. I mean, if anybody treated Oliver with kid gloves, he would be he would let you know. Also, I love this because canonically, outside of the original 7 JLAers, he was the first new member that they admitted onto the Justice League of America in the 60s. So yeah, Oliver Queen. Again, I made a joke earlier about, we're gonna do a podcast where I just talk about Oliver Queen for 7 days straight, and it'll be amazing. But I do love them very much. I love. Nobody's gone through better costumes, by the way, than Dinah. I don't know if there's ever been a Black Canary outfit that I didn't like, which is saying something because she was a character in the 90s.
That's very
You
true.
should see some of the Dazzler costumes from the 90s. Some crazy stuff there.
Yeah.
But that leads me, my big one for the day, and I've been thinking about them a lot, probably because I've been reading the New Gods, but also because they are one of my favorite couples, and that's Mr. Miracle and Big Barda.
Yeah.
Oh, and Birds of Prey. I mean, she's been
Yeah.
on my mind, and this is a relationship that's born just through fire, literally, because so let me see.
On Apocalypse.
Mr. Miracle, was 1970. She was 71. She was in Mr. Miracle number 4. Like that was
Like very,
right
very
there,
quickly.
right there. Yeah, and they're on Apocalypse, and they're being so Apocalypse is essentially a war planet.
Like a war culture.
Yes. It's a fiery hellscape. It's ran by Darkseid.
And their swimming pool is actual lava. Yeah.
And everyone is impressed as a child, male and female, to be trained for life as a warrior, serving Darkseid. So like an evil warrior, probably parademon sleeping in your bunks with you. It's described as a living hell. And Scott Free is on this planet, and he's not supposed to be. He is the son. So there's a sister planet called New Genesis.
Yep.
And it is essentially a paradise, and it's ran by
Orion?
no. Isaiah, the High Father. His real name is Isaiah. You know what Darkseid's real name is?
No.
Uxas.
Okay.
Uxas.
That's cool.
So as part of a very very loose truce between the two warring planets, they exchanged sons. So Darkseid's son Orion is raised on this paradise.
That's what
by
I-
High
that's what I
Father.
meant. Sorry.
And he's the greatest warrior of all time. But he was born evil, Darkseid's son, and he's overcome that. And now he's a hero, but he's a angry hero. And then Scott Free, the son of essentially God, Isaiah, is raised on this hell planet.
Yep.
And he and Barda inevitably
His nature shines through.
Yes,
Yes.
very much so. Well, he becomes Earth's greatest escape artist, and that starts on Apocalypse because he escapes with the help of Barda.
Yep.
So Barda's being trained by Granny Goodness.
Yep.
So essentially, I always thought of this as just like Hitler Youth type thing.
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
just pure. This woman is pure evil, but believes in the messaging.
Yes.
And they're instilling like these horrible things in these people. She's being raised to be one of the female Furies, which she was. She became that. But she helps Scott escape, but she doesn't escape not until later. And then she joins him. And once she gets to Earth, she finds him, and it's Scott Free. Once he gets to Earth, has become kind of a carnival attraction as this famous escape artist, Mr.
Yeah.
Miracle. He took over from Thaddeus Brown, who he was not. He came to Earth. I love this issue of Mr. Miracle because he meets this guy with the Mr. Miracle outfit who is a escape artist, and his name's Thaddeus Brown. He's like, could you teach me, and then I could do it, and that's it. That's how he becomes Mr. Miracle. And then he gets like a sidekick named Oberon, this little guy who sticks with him. So she finds him when he's and also, the genius of comics. His name's Scott Free.
Yeah.
That's his given name, and he's the world's greatest escape artist. That is Joycean. All right,
amazing.
It is. And so she comes then, and he's adjusted. And then they get together, like they're fated, and they stick together. And I like what happens is she kind of, I won't say keeps house, but she isn't a warrior anymore, and she's happy with it. She's happy to
She can pull it out if she needs to.
and
But
she
she's fine.
does. And
Yes.
no one, even Ollie and Dinah, who I think are the next one biggest things of this, is no one is more protective of their spouse than, especially Barda with Scott, because Barda is physically 2 feet taller than him and a goddess. But he's Dominion. He's just a regular sized guy. But she need not worry. He's always where he needs to be. But no, if when they team up, you can't beat them. And then they joined shortly after they came to Earth and reunited. They joined the JLI, which is it's definitely where I first encountered them.
Sure.
And again, the color scheme of his costume is as we've established the
perfect colors.
The green, red, and yellow color scheme. And they've always worked. And anybody who's not read the Mr. Miracle, the 12-issue series by Tom King, it is as great as you hear. It's
insanely good.
It's magisterial. The art by Mitch Gerads is next level, and it balances like these people who this very traumatic childhood with where they're at now with just
the sense of humor involved with it, and like if you think about being raised in that environment, like one of my favorite scenes or panels in that entire thing. Do you remember when they were stuck in the LA traffic, and what instead of listening to music, they were listening to the screams of the torture?
Yeah.
That's just like it's so this weird thing. Like you see, like you're just seeing this couple that would be like the picture perfect couple. That like the one like in a television show or like on Facebook where it's like everything's that's the couple, like that's what everybody's like striving to be.
They're good looking. They're superheroes. Right. That's another thing though. It's like even members of the Justice League they can't imagine what they went through. Like you have no idea, and they don't bring their baggage there, but they share it. And that's the thing for couples that have been together for a long time. Even if you break up, like no one else can replace what you guys the hell that you guys have gone through together.
Right.
And that's why, especially in this Mitch Gerads, the Tom King book, that's what it's like. You guys have been through hell, but you've been through it together. And like, sure. And the whole thing about that is like real life's hard too. Like now we have a wife, I have a wife and kids, and like just real life is hard. But we made it through the flames of apocalypse together. We can make it through.
In that book though, there's still like the arrangement where there's still like representatives of apocalypse.
Yep.
Where
and they have to go back.
She ends up at the beginning like she's pregnant and they have a kid and they have a nanny that comes over so they can go back and be generals in this war. Like
imagine having to go back.
Yeah. And but
just so that the planets don't destroy each other.
Right. And it's a fantastic book, and it honestly,
and anybody who reads it knows the evil of Darkseid. He double dips.
Yes.
He is truly a monster.
Ugh. And it is perfect. It is a perfect book to discuss during this episode because that is a shining showcase of their relationship.
Yes.
I mean, it is perfect. Like it distills it down to like, if you want to understand what we're talking about, that is 12 issues you can just read and be like, yep, I get it. I know what they're talking about.
Yep. And it's
a great job.
And it is certainly the best Mr. Miracle Barda comic there is. It's just, sure. It's wrote to say that at this point, but it's true. Mm-hmm. And again, keeping with the Tom King love that we have on this show, and he's also got his Love Everlasting is another. It's a very interesting take on relationships, but a lot of fun. And then we might as well plug what is it? Tales of Wyndham.
What's her name? Something of Wyndham.
Something of Wyndham with Bill Queevely, reteaming with his Women of Tomorrow artist for a boom book?
It is Dark Horse.
Dark Horse book.
It's Helen of Wyndham.
Helen of Wyndham.
Helen of Windhorn. I'm sorry.
Helen of Windhorn. We were close. We knew they included words in the title.
Yep. There's a W in there, a Y. Mm-hmm. March 13th is when that one.
March 13th, and that one is going to be. I think it's going to be. Well, I hope it's going to be big.
He wrote it.
Might be a surprise hit.
They had their team up. He wrote it immediately following, and she has been working on the art since for Supergirl.
Whoa! Wow.
So
it's gonna look great.
It's gonna look great.
I wonder why she. I mean, because she posts a lot, but she hasn't been posting pages and stuff until recently. And it's like, so I guess she must have been like hard at work on this.
I think that her art is deceptive. I think it is very, very, very complex and very the art level.
I do too. There are some spreads in that Supergirl comic that were just insane.
It's like that Art Deco thing that you're just like, how could you do that over and over again? You know what I mean? Like it's got
panel to panel. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Greg, do you believe in love?
I absolutely believe in love.
Yeah. Especially after that Traveling to Mars issue.
I do. I don't know if it's cheating talking about that, but that relationship, it's one of the most real ones in in comics.
Well, okay, so Craig married his great love. I lost mine, and I'll tell you what, this book made us both cry. For probably the same reasons. It is Mark Russell is that incredible. This is the kind of things that if we were in your living room, if you see us, that we would go over this. We have visual aids, we have pamphlets, but this is how we can reach you right now. But we will continue to proselytize Mark. Valentine himself, he was a Roman, 3rd century Roman. So like I don't think he was ever actually in Ireland. But the thing is, I've always thought it was very, very macabre because he was, I think he was beheaded, but he was beheaded on February 14th. So we're essentially celebrating
His beheading.
We could have done it on his birthday. It's
Right.
like, so, all right, I'm going to go a little bit of a tangent, everybody. Don't worry, it's for love. We're broadcasting worldwide, but we're our home base is in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we have a minor league team here called the Tin Caps. And boy, when they first started here, there was nothing more important than Tin Caps for this single A ball club for the Padres. And they had a great lineup that first year. A lot of major leaguers. I'm not dissing minor league baseball. I love it. But everybody that was there was so like into the Tin Caps, and they were like, Shane's the Tin Caps. And I was like, because Johnny Appleseed, that's where it gets its very stupid name. But I had to explain, like, Johnny Appleseed wasn't born here. Johnny Appleseed was barely ever in Fort Wayne. All Johnny Appleseed did was die here. You created a death cult.
Yes.
And you are celebrating this is a death cult. All you people are monsters.
So we have a yearly festival for Johnny Appleseed.
Yes.
Based upon that, we have not
his
even his real grave.
Is he not there?
I
think it's his. I think it is.
That legitimately
Yes.
is on top of that hill.
Yes.
Okay. So at least it might be his real.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you can go. It's one of my favorite makeout spots. But that's great. But I mean, yeah. Back to the comics.
For sure. Okay, you threw me off when you brought up Roy and Candace again, but I didn't want to talk about
Oh boy, yeah. The titular characters in Traveling to Mars.
I'm gonna move this adjacent,
Knees.
and this is where I'm gonna talk about Tom King again because you just talked about him.
Okay.
I really dig Human Target and Ice.
Oh, and now that, but you get two love stories because Guy.
Yes,
It builds on that
Like a
love story
triangle type
between
thing,
between Guy Gardner and Tara Olasdottir. Great. She's a Icelandic goddess. She's a Nordic goddess. But that history and like she made Guy better, but she didn't really succeed because he's still Guy, but he loves her still. And the stuff that he's doing, even though they're not together, stuff that he's doing for her, it's like this is probably the only person Guy has ever truly loved.
right. And
Yeah.
but you can tell he's like a bumbling idiot and doesn't even know how to express it. Right.
Yep, and if he only could have done it back then, he probably would have. It probably would have always, because Ice gave him more than enough chances, and she was so sweet. But now she finds love with Chase. Is that his name?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
The Human Target, and and they only know each other for a few days,
Yep.
and they tell this bittersweet love story, and it's lovely. It's the best looking book of last year.
It's Greg Smallwood, man.
Yes.
But so it's not like that's not one of those long-lasting loves. It's not a fairy tale thing.
No,
But in
no.
the story, I just do that to say with Tom King and his dialogue and stuff, he writes believable dialogue and he writes believable situations where I do love this fling that they have, if nothing else.
Yeah. And he also writes a ripping good yarn. You know.
Yes. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Because he can write the anti-love. Because anybody who's read Penguin 4, where he goes back and recruits his wife, it is the opposite of whatever true love is,
Yeah.
or perhaps not. Love takes many forms. Sometimes it's psychotic killers doing psychotic killer shit. But do you have one to follow up?
I'm not picking favorites. I'm kind of spitballing, but I figured
I'm
we
just thinking
would
my
be
favorite ones.
remiss. Well, okay, I will. I'm going to bring this up, and it's not. I'll just say it. I'm going to talk Peter Parker, but it's going to go multiple levels.
Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna blow my nose. Keep it rocking. This is good radio right here.
Okay. So, as we all know, Peter Parker, his first lady was one Gwen Stacy. And she, unfortunately, was, you could say it was Green Goblin that killed her by knocking her off that bridge. But, Peter blames himself. And, he...
Hold on. I got one for this. You know who I blame?
Who do you blame? Late stage capitalism?
No. My personal nemesis, gravity.
Gravity. So we all know that iconic, issue. That was where I feel like in Spider-Man shit got real, right? Like I don't think everybody's thinks like, oh, villains.
We all grew up that
heroes.
day.
Yeah. And so Gwen Stacy Webster snaps her neck. She's gone. We all know that. And then Pete was, obviously he holds himself responsible. So I have to mention that. That was like a first time, like there was no mention of like, it's hard to imagine now because we've kind of had that hole filled. And even though it's not the same Gwen Stacy, we see her all over the place now. He's like, oh, well, there's the multiverse. And what we'll do is we'll make her Spider-Woman. That's cool. But it was
or a bridge too far, depending on how you look at it.
Agreed. But I'm saying it was very permanent and there was nothing filling that void at the time. Right.
But no, then he gets MJ, and that's another thing. Is like the world's best consolation prize, but I think MJ is I think who he is meant to be with, and I stand Felicia Hardy.
Yes, for sure.
Hard. I'm not even against the Silver Sable fling that he had once,
for sure.
But no, MJ and it's probably written in the stars. Their chemistry is just there, and anybody who's read Ultimate Spider-Man 1,
and that's where I was going to go with this.
Like Debbie. Yes, they know.
Part of the reason I think why this book has so much success is that everybody wants Peter and MJ. I think that's, if you ask somebody, you're like, let them be together. That's awesome. That's what you feel like, because you dig the relationship, you dig the dynamic, and like it's been. I don't even want to get into it. I don't want to get into the One Fine Day and all that stuff.
One fine. No.
That was a film.
One More Day.
One More Day.
One Fine Day was that was a Michelle Pfeiffer George Clooney movie.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, if you guys want to see not just palpable chemistry, but just the more charisma than maybe celluloid can take. Watch One Fine Day, and you look at the charming gleam in George Clooney's eyes, and you don't swoon. That you should watch that on Valentine's Day, everybody.
Absolutely,
whether you're alone or not.
So
know what? Another reason I think that relationship is so popular, and I could be way off base here, but I'm not. Is Peter? It's the way to imagine like you're like the broke 20-year-old who has a just incredibly hot, rich supermodel who is in love with you. That has some mileage, especially with comic book fans.
For sure.
I mean, it works for me still.
And the cheat code is...
He did hit the jackpot.
Tiger. That's what I was about to mention. They have to be together. She's got like a pet name for him.
Yeah. Well,
I mean...
I don't know. I got a pet name for you, and you still... Like, Kelly is my wife. I'm not going to...
You know what I'm saying. I don't know.
I do, honeybee.
Like, I think that... I'm not going to talk about my frustrations with it. I am going to be optimistic and say, keep on reading Ultimate Spider-Man, folks. If that's what you want, keep those books rolling, because that's what I want, and I need some help.
Yeah, for the last few years, we saw MJ with some other dude with kids, and it's like fucking Paul.
That guy.
Jeez. And
they didn't feel good about it because when he was out doing petty Parker shit, they decided to hide. They're like, we're probably on his list.
Yeah, and it felt wrong. It felt so against God's plan.
Yeah. Take us up on it. Write to the podcast. Tell us how you feel about, what's your feeling on MJ and Peter? Are you cool with it? Are you excited for Ultimate Spider-Man because of that? Like, I'm honestly interested in multiple opinions on that.
Have you ever looked at, fan-made Peter MJ porn?
Right.
We want to know all of the things.
Sure.
I haven't. I don't even know if it exists. You guys have to let me know which site to go to. Specifically.
Specifically. Absolutely.
These are the big ones, except, the folks shouting at home, Clark and Lois.
Clark and Lois, of course.
And I have lots of thoughts on this.
Go ahead.
I don't know. At a certain point, you gotta wonder if people listen. I'm like, oh, shut up. But I won't. So here's the thing about Lois Lane. Like, she has to like Superman has seen supernovas with his Superman can fly. He can he can see through he can see your nervous system. Right. He has saved everyone. He's saved people in Belize, in Singapore, in Canada. He has stopped volcanoes, and he comes home every day to Lois and says, "Wow, wow, wow." Imagine what kind of a human can do that to you. How amazing of a person. Like, Lois Lane can give orders to Justice League members, and they don't. They're like, okay,
Right.
No one's like, why'd you bring him here? Do you think?
What's going on with Yoko over here?
Yeah. You think if Vicky Vale told anybody to do anything? Like, no.
Yeah.
And so Lois is somebody that I imagine, like, besides being like, prize-winning reporter, but for print media. But I feel like she'd be super savvy. So she was probably already on the online thing before anybody.
Right.
And I think she'd probably be, one of the last few trusted voices in news. And she'd be the kind of person like Mike Wallace or Barbara Walters getting these insane like war zone interviews that like the whole world watches because they're so consequential. Back when news mattered.
But she kind of did that in Flashpoint. That's what she was doing.
Yes.
Right. And that's kind of like that's why I think I enjoyed that so much. It split off into the different books, and I cared about the Lois Lane book because I felt the same way. I'm like, yep, that's what she'd be doing
about Lois, and she's a great mom to Jonathan, and she understands like what Clark needs. And what he means to people, but also like what he means to her and to the family. But Lois, more than anything, is Lois Lane is somebody like Starfire or like Dinah or like Zatanna even, where if you ever met her, you would never forget the first time you met her.
Right.
She'd be such a striking like presence that you always remember when you met Lois Lane. That's again like with that issue that you're talking about where they go to the fair. It's like here are three superheroes, three icons in the DC universe. Lois seems exactly right in step with. All of them. You don't blink. Lois Lane had her own very popular solo title for years.
Yes.
Years.
It was, I mean, to describe Lois, when I think about the relationships like that, I have to compare it to my own or other relationships I have known. And that is like when I go to work, my wife is sharing me with the Fort Wayne comic book community. Lois is sharing Superman with
the world,
more than the world.
Yeah.
Anywhere he's capable of going, and that kind of thing. Like, it's extremely selfless of her to give that part up. I mean, you could say the same thing about like firefighters and other things like that, where they're leaving and maybe they won't come home. Like that's just her. I mean, it's Superman. Sure,
say about it.
It's a struggle every day. I mean, you talk about the strength of their relationship and all of that and the trust that they have to be. I mean, that only works. You could definitely tell that Clark's the type where he's like, I don't want to tell her because I don't want her to hurt her and blah, blah, blah. And you can tell that she's absolutely the type like, you dipshit, that's my decision. Like you don't make that decision for me. And he's like, yes, ma'am.
He might wear the red shorts in the house, but she wears the pants.
Right.
Also, guys, if you're wondering about where to take your girl for Valentine's Day this year, just know he's gonna take her to the top of Mount Rushmore and waltz with her. You're not gonna do as well. Take a little breath. Take it easy on yourself.
Just go to the Cork and Cleaver. It's fine. It's sufficient. It'll be fine.
It's fine. It's a death holiday. Just remember that.
Beheading.
Yeah. A martyrdom, if you want to use a nice parlance. What is your favorite on-screen comic book couple? It could be one of these. I do very
Based
much
upon chemistry or who I thought got it right or what?
Chemistry, because I would say like I love the Batman Catwoman and Batman Returns, but boy, is that the most toxic thing ever.
Yes.
In that portrayal, thank God that she chose to execute Max Schreck instead of going home with him because
sure,
boy, she'll end up murdering like all like
right, all
the animals on the compound.
That's a great one. As far as on screen, this is going to sound ridiculous, but the one I've had the most fun with, and I don't know why it's this way. I really like Tom Welling and Erica Durance in Smallville.
Yeah.
As far as that sounds really silly, but as far as all the Loises that I've seen cast, keeping in mind that I have not all seen all of Superman and Lois, I really, really like Superman and Lois.
Yeah, I'm not either.
So I can't really make a full judgment there, but I've watched the entirety of Smallville. She was introduced like season 4 or something, and then it kind of was like she picked on him. That was where Smallville came from, seeing all those things. She was, hot shit. That was when she was very first getting into, it was kind of made up because she got into the whole, her cousin Chloe was the one that was actually the investigative whatever, but then she kind of picked up and carried the torch, whatever. Anyway, that in particular, as far as Lois, that's my favorite that I've seen as far as the playfulness.
I think I'd go with the Kidder Grieve in the original, the 1978 movie.
Yeah,
they had a great back and forth that really and it really deepened in number 2 when he gave up his powers for her. But at the end of number 1, where like he literally turns back time so that he doesn't have to live without her.
Right.
That was so amazing, so beautiful and scientifically sound. And there was one more that I really liked. I can tell you my least favorite. My absolute least favorite is any relationship in Supergirl, the TV series, that Supergirl's sister has with anyone. God, just here we're gonna stop the show for some bullshit that nobody cares about.
Yeah,
it's hard to get through.
I agree with your assessment on the Superman the movie, but I think you have to know about them and carry that into that movie as far as giving it enough time to not think that he's an absolute crazy person to be willing to do all of that like immediately.
No. Watch the 3.5 hour version. It was aired over 2 nights.
Okay.
Because that's how movies used to be. Because it used to be before VHS. After you saw the movie
Switching
in
the
theaters,
tape.
you never saw it again. And that was it.
Sure. Okay.
So it would air on TV shortly after. But whether it's the theatrical cut or the 3.5 hour TV version, I love it. I think it's great. And I really like the Anne Hathaway, Christian Bale stuff.
That's a good one.
That worked really well for those two. That's a movie that was so well told that I was okay with Batman dying, even though he didn't.
Right.
But no,
I know I'm forgetting something completely.
I mean,
obvious
you
because
could
I'm on
always
the
go
spot.
with Jim Carrey's The Mask and Cameron Diaz, but that wasn't really. That was kind of even when you watch the movie, which I do think that's one of the best comic adaptations
absolutely is.
ever.
I think so.
But her like Presto Changeo liking him is more about the what's in the script and what would have actually manifested in the story.
Absolutely.
But that's in that era though too, that era of comic books I love, where Batman, DC Comics' biggest character, was such a huge hit. We got to get on this comic book thing. What should we make now? How about Dick Tracy, the Phantom, the Shadow, Tank Girl?
Right.
Like wait, what?
Weird stuff.
What?
Like who makes these decisions?
How about Wonder Woman? No. I really want to make. But then we got The Crow. Actually, all those movies I named, I love every single one. By the way.
Right. It was
Dick
just
Tracy's a perfect film.
you're taking it from the aspect of like, where did this come from? Like you had
what?
all of these.
Speaking of comic book movies, so I think we talked about this. The Road to Perdition was based on a comic book by Max Allan Collins. The kid that played his son, the guy that plays Superman now.
That's awesome.
Same guy.
I did not know that.
Yep.
That's cool.
Taylor Hitchland?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And they got something very right. My favorite Superman part that he's ever done was in Supergirl, where he lands in this military installation and he starts shaking hands with all the soldiers and saying hi, and like this like he cares about each and every one of them. It's like that is so perfect.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's not like a celebrity way. He's just as invested.
No, absolutely.
He's invested in meeting them.
And this thing is like 2 years later when he sees them again, he'll remember their names.
Right.
He'll ask like, "Oh, how's your daughter?" Like you know, all those things. And I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Namor's love affair with himself. No, I'm just joking. But no one compliments each other better than Reed and Sue.
Yep.
And if you're reading FF right now, it's one of the best versions I've ever seen of that.
Comics wise, I'm sorry, not because you got me stuck on the movie. I actually think that I'm such a negative person in that regard. Like I've more immediately comes to mind are the ones that I just absolutely think did not work. Like I wasn't a fan of
Meridian Chase and Batman Forever.
No. A few of them are Batman. Like one of my least favorite is I don't like Cavill and Adams. I don't feel like that was a
no. Me neither. I mean, it didn't have that magic that I want. That I think they should have that magic chemistry.
Brandon Routh and
Kate Bosworth.
That wasn't even a relationship. I was like,
nothing.
What
there.
is going on?
Nothing there. I agree with that.
So it's really hard. I'm really excited because honestly, as far as potential goes, I forget the lady's name.
Rachel
I
Brosnahan.
apologize. Yes.
I have a big crush on her.
She, I think, has Lois energy.
Oh yeah,
I think she does.
she's gonna be great.
If you watch Ms. Mavel, I can totally see her. If you take that energy and take out the, New York comic aspect of it, I can totally see her. It's just a different job, but she can be that character, like, and bring that same energy to what she brings.
I think she's
to
gonna
it.
break. I think that movie is gonna be really special. I think one of the worst relationships is Scott and Maddie Pryor, when they have a wife and child, and then he finds out Jean's back because comics, and he just leaves. He's like, all right, see ya. and he leaves. And he goes and gets back with Jean Grey.
And it was messed up that it was her clone anyway.
And then because comics, well, and like and then Maddie Pryor ended up being a clone of Jean, and then she ends up being a minion of hell and
the Goblin Queen.
the Goblin Queen, which sexy as hell. But like then we get Inferno, and it's like, see, Scott, the decisions have consequences. But it's like Scott is always like this morally upright guy, and like he's so straight. He's such a nerd. He's a guy that, like, when Charles dismisses class, he's like, Professor, you didn't assign me a homework.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then he just does this, and it was so out of character. And even reading those issues, it's like, that's not what this character would have done. This is so weird, and it's been explained.
Scott would have tortured himself doing the right thing.
He did torture himself.
Sure.
Because that's what he does best. But like, that doesn't make Maddie that doesn't help her out.
Right.
Doesn't help Jean out. But also when Maddie Pryor first appeared in comics, and she did look just like Jean, and you're like, what's going on? I don't think they had any plan yet. I really don't. I think they're like, we're gonna make her look like Jean, and we'll figure this out as we go. Because anybody who's read that her whole arc and then Inferno knows Inferno is fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
It is some wild shit, but it is awesome. But it's kind of like, okay, we'll just do this. Don't tell me 10 years before or 5 years before they're like, yeah, I got the plan.
That's yeah.
Chris Claremont will say, like, it was just he quote unquote, he said it was a clusterfuck. And reading those X-Men titles in the 80s, it's like month to month, you don't know what's going to happen because neither did they. And every month they pull out something crazy, and it was awesome, and it was amazing, and it worked.
So was he
Valentine's Day?
Was he the brain trust? Like, I mean, what?
It was him, Louis Simonson, and Anna Sensi. And Louis Simonson is the one. He would say, I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do. They both talk about, like, this happening several times. And he was like, I'm done. I have no more stories. And she was like, what about this, and this? Like, you set this up 2 years ago. You set this up 3, like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh my gosh, you're right. I have so many things. So I credit Louis Simonson a lot more than I think she gets credit for, and Nascenti very much. But Chris Claremont is, you can't take it away from him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's his baby. He was the sole writer for 17 years on that book.
That's
incredible
run.
Talk about my love affair at the X-Men. Shoot.
So I know, like I said, I'm missing something huge on the Marvel side of things. I feel even.
Well, we could talk. I don't want to be. I don't want to be about Hank and Janet. That's not good. That's not a good one.
Yeah, we'll skip that one. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
You already talked about Jean and Scott a little bit.
We got Reed and Sue a little bit.
Who else do we have that we can say is Hall of Fame?
I think that's all. I think we've covered every couple. Well, we didn't cover Daredevil and Elektra, but you know what? Listen to last episode, guys.
Yeah, we kind of already touched on that.
Because I think anybody listening to this is like, I don't think I've heard enough of Shane's voice.
Yeah, I mean,
go listen to a Running with the Devil, and you get more than your fill. But those are the great loves.
I agree. Who is somebody, and we can wrap this up, but like, Who is it that you, just one, who do you hate that they're together? And you're just like, God, stop. I don't ever want to see this as far as a relationship goes. Knock it off.
That's a great question.
Oh, Gambit and Rogue. I'm sorry. I grew up with that.
There we go.
I love Gambit and Rogue.
There we go.
I knew I was blowing it.
Absolutely.
And it was always intriguing to me as a kid. I'm sorry. I'll touch on this and we'll get to what I said as far as the hate. I'll give you some time to think about it.
No, I've always had one line. I've got it lined up.
It is insane to me. I put myself in that spot where they were in love, and this is back when Rogue would just flat out kill you if she touched you too long. Mm-hmm. Like her full get up, always in gloves, like not being able to like express, like the relationship's obviously more than just physical stuff, but it goes with it. I remember thinking like, man, that's got to be like awful to even like accidentally, like like you're reaching over the countertop because you're cooking together like couples do, and you accidentally brush against her face, and you're like, now the pots and pans are all full of kinetic energy.
Also about that though, like Remy was he's such a before
a romantic type.
He was a skeezy guy. He was like the flirt with everybody, sleep with everybody. That's how I picture him. He's a Louisiana Cajun. He was, the hygiene probably wasn't even great. But he could talk himself into or out of anything. Like that's one of his powers is his charm. And with her, he's like completely disarmed.
Right.
Like she took away all of his tricks. Again, it's kind of like that Diana and Ollie thing where he has to meet her where she's at.
Yeah.
Make him better. Make him a grown-up.
It's one of those where they've put out series, and it's not like there's been a Gambit book, there's been a Rogue book, but there's also a Gambit and Rogue book, and that's how you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that's even recent. I think Claremont wrote that one. So
no, yeah, okay.
So that's the one from my childhood. Honestly, growing up,
T'Challa and Storm.
Yep.
Another great one. Another one that was like clearly meant to be, clearly could not work, and it didn't. One is the leader of all of Wakanda. The other is not just a goddess, an actual goddess, an elemental, but her allegiance to the X-Men and that cause. I mean, the two can never reconcile their lives together, and it's a shame because they're never going to quit loving each other.
Right.
And they if you have that one, you're lucky.
Right.
Some people are married to people they don't even like. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just what I did. Usually teachers. But no, we've already talked about them. But so I hate. And when you read it, you can even it happens like it does in real life. Is a guy in Ice.
Yeah,
I hate it. I always have because you see in real life when like you see that douchey guy, like the guy that is such an asshole with this perfect girl, and she's like, but you don't know him like I do. Like, yes, I do. I absolutely do. I know
the Wedding Singer.
I know him.
That's what I mean. That's how viewed it.
It's that. It's like guy is a dick. Like just because like when we're alone together, he's really nice. Like, well, one, that's terrible. That's a terrible thing. I hope that's not true, you psycho. Right. But also like when we're alone, he's less awful. Like, oh my god, I've always hated it with his dumbass bowl cut. And here's the thing, I love Guy Gardner.
No, I got you.
I love the character. Just like no, Tara is too perfect. She's too innocent. She's too sweet. She deserves better. Damn it.
Yeah.
Do you have one
for hate?
Yes.
Paul and MJ, man. No.
Fuck Paul.
No, fuck Paul.
For real.
No, he didn't do anything. That's fine. I guess mine's not a real one. Mine's the Logan longing for Jean thing has always, for me, just been annoying.
Really?
For me personally,
okay.
I mean, I understand that she's cool. I get all of that. But like, I guess I didn't get into that stuff until I'd already seen like Logan in his own stuff in like Marico, where I viewed him as like that was his like true love, and then after that he became like whatever. So then Jean didn't really feel authentic to me because I felt like I'd already seen him authentic. So it's weird for me.
Well, the thing about one, he's never felt like that about anybody, but and the thing I like about that is it's the one thing that like Scott has over him, and it makes him so mad. But if you read
and I love the way that the movies did play on that. They did a good job as far as like Scott giving little jabs.
The one thing that they didn't do, and one thing I love that happened in the comics, and it took 20 years for this to develop, but it did, and it's such a strong point, is nobody respects Cyclops more than Wolverine.
True.
He thinks the world of Cyclops. He won't ever tell him.
Right.
But it's so awesome, and he's like, that is the best man that I know.
But he does the job, and that's what you're right.
Like, there's nobody I'd rather follow in. But he's like, but I'll still like, I'm gonna talk shit to him. I'm gonna undercut him. But it's like doesn't mean I won't defend him to the death. Yeah. But no, I'm fine with it now. I don't know if you got how far you got into the Krakoa era, but Hickman took that completely out. He gave them Jean's bedroom door. She has doors on either side that communicate with one with Wolverine's, one with Cyclops. Mm-hmm. They all have a shared polyamorous arrangement.
Really?
It's yep.
That's wild.
When I read that, I was like, well, I'm all grown up now. Like I like though, like Hickman took away like the ability to kill off characters cheaply.
Sure.
And he took that. No, he's got to tell a story. Like you've been telling the same stories for years.
Right.
So we could talk about my love affair with Jonathan Hickman.
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, I really love Jonathan Hickman. He as we've discussed, he blocked me on all his socials. No, he doesn't have any socials. I did compare him earlier to a Greek oracle.
Yeah.
But that's that. So anyway,
wrap this
everybody, yeah, love's a sham. Valentine's Day is a death holiday, and next year if I have a girlfriend, I will say quite the opposite, and don't tell her I said that.
Don't listen to Shane, everybody. Happy
No.
Valentine's Day. Honestly, send in mail to podcast@thearcade.com. Tell us who some of your favorite couples are or interesting dynamics and things like
not Billy Squire.
Not?
I don't want to hear from him again.
that. Sure.
He knows what he did.
So Billy Squire too. What do you? Oh my goodness.
The 80s are wild, man.
Yeah. All right.
Well, that's it. All you pony people, stay golden.
Thank you.